Monday Night Racing action is finally back with the rFactor 2 GT Pro Series powered by Traxxon.gg, and this time it's all about the relegation, figuring out who gets the last remaining spots to stay or to make it up to the GT Pro Series, or who has to go down to GT Challenge Series once again. My name is Randy Butler, alongside me is Lewis McLeod, bringing you all the action of those, let's say 3-race shootout that we'll have tonight, with our drivers that all want to make their way, Lewis, into the Pro Series, or stay in the Pro Series.
Yeah, we had a fantastic couple of seasons not very long ago that were wrapped up, of course, GT Challenge and GT Pro. Plenty of great racing in both of that, and I get the feeling we're going to see very much the same today. We've got plenty of great drivers out there, 5 from GT Pro, 5 from GT Challenge, wrestling it out for 5 spots to enter for Season 4 of GT Pro.
Yeah, if you were wondering how drivers actually got here, there's obviously a direct dropout of the GT Pro Series, which is positions 30 to 26, and then 25 to 20... 20? 21?
21 to 25.
Yeah, the next 5. They actually go into relegation, and that's similar what happens in GT Challenge, where we have 1 to 5 that stay, that go directly to GT Pro, and then we have 6 to 10 that will land here in the relegation, have a second shot, basically, at making it into the Pro Series. 3 races, slightly different format to what we normally have, Lewis, during the season, because it's not a 2-race format per track anymore.
No, and it's not one track that we're racing at this evening. We'll be racing here from a circuit, which, by the way, is a very bizarre one for the drivers. Great challenge, Loch Drummond, a fictional circuit based in Scotland. It is a crazy backdrop with the mountains in the distance, but it's a circuit which has its challenges, the undulations. Of course, we'll be going to Sebring School, which is a classic for the relegation playoff races, and then to Lime Rock as well.
It is an exciting lineup. It's different, as you said already. We had Sebring School previously, but I think we also visited Nürburgring on the last 2 relegations, and we kind of went to the tracks that we had in the season. And if you're wondering, hey, how are all these tracks to experience them myself, then rFactor 2 is currently in the publisher sale, 60% off for the base simulation. So make sure that you check that out, and if you're not yet involved with rFactor 2, then the game, jump in the cockpit yourself and maybe make it into GT Challenge or even GT Pro during the next seasons coming up here. We actually have a look at qualification. I was wondering if we get the overview of drivers first. Yeah, but we have that anyway, and 2 of them, they should be quite familiar to you, Lewis, right?
Yeah, certainly. Zancho Simsport, who did very well in both GT Pro and GT Challenge, winning both championships. Of course, Rocket Simsport's Jan van der Heide, the champion of GT Pro, champion of GT Challenge. A few weeks after that was Matt Richards as well, looking to get another couple of cars into the series, which would be very good for them. It's a tight qualifying session around here, though. Not very long for them to get their laps on the board. I know it's only 10 cars, but this is going to be frantic and thrilling action across 3 wildly different circuits.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if there's maybe a favorite per track, depending on what style they like. And I would say Loch Drummond is probably one of the tracks that you normally don't have on your training schedule as a driver in the GT Pro Series. And we now got 4 McLarens up front, with Ibrahim Khan and Risto Capit, Sita Vaya and Martono. And I have to say, since I know you normally love throwing around stats and quirky facts about races and tracks, and there's obviously none for this because it's not a real track, right? Not as in real life track, but I got one for you, Lewis. This is season 3, the 3rd time that we head into the relegation, and the very first time that there's no Butler Powell Motorsport car on the grid for relegation. So a little clap to myself. Finally made it.
One person who is a mainstay, though, of the relegation is Sido Vaya, who I believe has been in both of the previous ones, was successful in the first attempt, managed to get through into GT Pro, had a bit of a struggle through GT Pro, but ended up in the relegation race at the end of season 2, which was a failed attempt, came up a little bit short, as did Matt Richards, and those 2 had to go through GT Challenge again. This one was a fair effort through the season. I believe it was 6th place. Ended up finishing, 7th place rather, finishing in the championship with a podium as well to Sido's name, but does know how to get through in this kind of scenario, so can make it work.
Ruben, quickly throwing us a few new information, bits and pieces, because tonight we will also give you further information about GT Pro Series Season 4 and the upcoming GT Challenge Season 4. And one of the biggest news probably is that the GT Pro Series next season will be driven on GTE cars, which means we get an entire new lineup. While we had the RA GT3 the last years now with the GT Pro Series, we now hop over to a Chevrolet Corvette C8 that's obviously in the BMW M8 GTE and the Ferrari 488 GTE, for example. So a set of new toys to play around with on the track here in the GT Pro Series, and will be very interesting to see if the same drivers are still strong on it next season, or if we maybe see new drivers emerge from the grid as favorites for the title.
Well, GTEs are wildly different. Follow my logic here. They are different, though, to a GT3. It's not necessarily the same. There's a bit more brutality in the way that a GTE delivers its power. There's a lot more downforce on a GTE. So they're a fair amount faster. The racing is going to be quite different. First race, though, of the evening, and we can see that Ibrahim Khan on pole position from Risto Capit, Cito Via and Presley Martineau as well on that second row of the grid. Behind them, Christian Mikel inside the top 5, Lorenzo Risi, Wojciech Polesny and Petr Beliak in the Audi. We'll talk about the car choices because it is a little bit different than we had in GT Pro and GT Challenge. Free car choice. The final drivers on the grid, Martin Derlin and Diogo Silva, the top 10. The top 10 being the entire grid. We're focused, though, on the top 5 drivers, though, and it is where consistency across the night is going to be hard work.
It definitely is, and it's kind of sad to see that Martin Dolan is struggling here for John Lazy Esports Academy, even though he was able to, as he said already, freely choose the car now. Risto Capit, probably not a surprise to see him in the first row, but it's all about Ibrahim Khan, I would say, getting a pole position here. He had a really, really good season for how he got started into this, and seeing him now being on pole for relegation, it's kind of good to know, and we will see what happens with it.
Yeah, moving from a Ferrari over to the 720. Here we go then for the first race. We are underway and Ibrahim Khan's going to be leading them. But look at that. Set Chesney Velix of Christian Mikel going around the outside of turn 1. It gives him the inside. There is contact between him and Presley Martineau running down the hill through the crest into turn 2. This tightening right-hander follow for the second apex as we ride on board with Diogo Silva. Bit of a brash contact there from Christian Mikel trying to make it 3 wide and start finish straight. But we are through clean.
Yeah, throwing in the car there at the apex was kind of risky, but as I said, clean because we didn't lost a single car so far. Very compact grid here with the 10 starters that we have, and Ibrahim Khan is able to remain the leader of the group and having Cito Via, his teammate, kind of as a backup, rather than having Risto Capit all over his rear view mirror. Capit now in 3rd, and then Martino 4th, Mitchell still in 5th. Diogo Silva kind of a driver I was expecting to get around the outside of everyone, with everyone notching inside and trying to bump in, bump out. But so far he wasn't able to really move along here in the grid.
Just going to say, by the way, Risto Capit taking on the 720 was in the Bentley Continental 2020 version throughout Season 3 of GT Pro and very much struggled with it. Here is one that we're riding on board with that is in the hands of Lorenzo Risi. I think it's actually the 17 version that Lorenzo Risi has. So as I said, free car choice. Some drivers picking something a little bit different than what they ran through the season. Ibrahim Khan was in a Ferrari all season, now driving the 720 that was victorious in the championship in both Pro and Challenge. But Risto Capit, let's be honest, I think that livery looks absolutely spot on, really fits the 720 nicely.
Yeah, I saw that previously on Twitter already, and it's a really good looking car, but it's not just about the looks, right? It's also about how quick he can be, and currently there are 2 drivers quicker than him on the track, while we're on board with Martin Derlin, who's looking at the rear of Petr Beliak, trying to find a way around, and we see the drivers being slightly not that clean, I would say, in the background. Tapping the grass here and there. Luckily, no one lost the car so far. And you definitely see Ibrahim Khan spreading the lead there. Nearly 2 seconds already.
Yeah, this is looking like a fantastic effort from Ibrahim Khan. Sort of up and down throughout the season of GT Pro. Managed to get through after doing quite well in Season 2 of GT Challenge. A race win back at Indianapolis in that second season, as well as a couple of podiums throughout the season, moved up into GT Pro after finishing 5th in the championship. Didn't seem to fit too well into GT Pro from the off, but once they signed Ferris Stanley into the Zancho outfit, the Ferrari seemed to start moving forward. There's a bit more consistency, almost moved them out of the bottom 20, but unfortunately it wasn't to be in that season finale at Indianapolis. Either way though, moving across to the 720, removing any doubt about Ibrahim Khan's pace, and you kind of have to prove it when you've been complaining about a car all season and you're finally given the car that won the championship. You've got to perform.
Definitely. I mean, we also know that racing is a lot about complaining, right? But he delivers here at Loch for sure. I mean, it's still 60 and a half minutes to go. So quite a while for these drivers, but with a 2-second gap that he can probably manage over Cedar Vaya and then Risto Capit, he should feel quite comfortable as of right now. Thiago Silva, he knows that he has to somehow make a move now on Martin Dillon, and he's really, really close, but still not enough to really attack when jumping on board with Lorenzo Arisi here, right behind Wojciech Polesny. Wojciech had an awful Season 3, I would say, in the Pro Series. Really unlucky in so many cases where he got into trouble with the car, where he was not able to really showcase the skill that he definitely has.
So this is where we were going to be quite interested about this, because we were talking about this before of maybe the GT Challenge drivers might struggle against the might of the GT Pro contingent that we've got here. But just talking through this top 5 at the moment, which is the top 5 drivers that we're focused on, it's basically a mini championship that's run over 3 races. If we're just going to base it off of this one race at the moment, we have in the top 5 just 2 GT Pro drivers and 3 GT Challenge drivers. It is going to be close and hard fought across the night. You've got to have practiced a lot. That's a big wide moment there from Peter Berliak as well, diving to the inside the 650S of Martin Derlin. No way through. They're still very tight, 8 seconds separating the entire top 10.
Yeah, it shows us that you need to be focused and really concentrated each and every corner, otherwise you might find yourself in trouble. Well, that was quite close there between Lorenzo Arisi's Bentley and Wojciech Polesny's McLaren, if I saw that correctly, up front. With the Bentley diving up to the inside there. Luckily, no contact. What do you say is like regarding this mini championship, as you call it so far? They all had free choice of cars. There's no ballast on them whatsoever. But does that answer the question then that Derland and Arisi, for example, were just not up to the task of staying within Pro Series? Because they were still, this open question is it just because they had to choose a different car in the draft, or maybe they had a bit of ballast, right? But now going up against the GT Challenge drivers, they're still not in the top 5, at least in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's going to be tough to be consistent through this. Very, very difficult, because for one, it's all the circuits that we're taking to, they're not ones that we're conventionally using in the GT series. So it's a bit new for some of them. Some that have been through this kind of format of relegation will know it a little bit better than others. But of course, Loch Drummond is not one that we're typical of using. Wojciech Polesny, by the way, dropping down the order for Varga and potentially out of the race. It is a retirement. My question, though, was going to be for these drivers like Lorenzo Arisi, like Martin Derlin, taking cars that are outside of the norm. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of 720s and a lot of R8s. Those two picking Bentley Continental as well as a 650S rather than 720. Maybe they're taking a gamble for other circuits coming up this evening.
It could be. I mean, if you think you can somehow survive and get a few points in Loch Drummond, but you know that their car is better on the other tracks, then you have the upper hand if everyone else is going for the same car. So it gives you a wide variety to play around with while we get the replay of what happened to Wojciech Polesny. That is exactly the same spot we saw a car going off previously, but he managed to get back on track. So where is the moment that got into his DNF? Was he actually touched in the rear by the Bentley there? Did the Bentley send him wide and then into the wall there? Or was it him just overrunning the corner and then into the grass there?
Would certainly like to see that one from off-board, because it seems like there's a bit more of a factor in there. Either way, it seemed like a mistake of himself that we did see, let's say, from Peter Berliak a bit earlier in the race, where making that sort of mistake, running it a little bit too hard over some of these corners. It's a tricky circuit where a lot of that central section, it's a corner leading into another corner. Do really, really enjoy this track. I have raced it once before in Clios. This is on board with Lorenzo Arisi, so we can understand what's happened. Just pushing wide. It's just understeer. It went went very, very boaty. Not quite sure why I wasn't able to wrestle it back onto the racetrack. Was a little bit too cautious with that and found a wall.
I'm wondering if he tried to stay flat on throttle, basically, and just get it through there as quick as possible to not lose the position to Arisi, and then found himself being more to the left than he was hoping to be. Like a few centimeters and then clipping the wall there. Unfortunately, that's our first DNF. Wojciech Paleski not starting well here into the GT Pro Series relegation for season, I'm not quite sure. Do we say that season 3? Do we say season 4? So obviously, it's all about a starting slot in season 4.
For me, I find this is the last moment of season 3. I know it's obviously we're in that bit of between season 3 and season 4, but this is like, I don't really know myself. I feel it's the last moment of season 3. This is the official end of the third season of both GT Pro and GT Challenge, and we'll be moving into season 4 in not very long. We obviously announced there that they're going to be in GTE cars, so for some of these drivers it might be the final taste of them in GT3s, looking to take on GTEs, which, like you're saying, it's going to apply a wildly different style of driving that is going to work well for some, not for others.
That's true. It will be a new challenge for all of these drivers switching to GTE. Some drivers might have that experience from endurance championships they're in, where they drive these cars. That will help a bit. On board with Martin Durland in that beautiful teal, I'd say, McLaren 650S. So that's the old one, right behind Petar Bialek. So if you can take down that Audi, trying to look for a spot to overtake, and there's a certain gap already between Petar and Lorenzo Arisi, as we can see. And the Bentley all on his own there. And talking about a big gap, it's now over 3 seconds between Ibrahim Khan and his teammate Cito Vaya. So whoever wrote that in chat regarding hashtag Khan Domination 2021 might be right here for the relegation.
Yeah, a bit of I know it's virtual, I know it's fictional as well, but home soil as well for Ibrahim Khan up here in Scotland, a beautiful place to be racing. And like I say, that backdrop, particularly on the run down into turn 1, is absolutely sensational. It's breathtaking, and you kind of wonder, maybe we should have this in real life. Someone should build a track in this kind of area, because it is a stunning view, much kind of brought into the same mindset of somewhere like Austria. It's a fantastic view. Can't keep your eyes on that though. You've got to keep your eyes on the race itself, and as I say, difficult to overtake for some of these drivers. Lorenzo Arisi in that 2017 Bentley, that was the one that finished second in the championship of GT Pro, courtesy of Dennis Jordan, who had a season of consistency. Obviously got a win and a podium through there, a couple of podiums as well. Just wasn't quite good enough in the final round that Jan van der Heide won that championship in. Maybe would have expected a little bit more, though I wouldn't say this circuit necessarily matches to the 17's strength, although I wouldn't say any of the ones we have on the season do either.
Making it really complicated now. I think it's probably a bit too early to call what will happen in the relegation, but I have to say I'm quite surprised that Risto Capit is not capable of sticking to Cito Vaya, let alone to Ibrahim Khan, who's absolutely running away on this track. Completely different level right now. He still has that gap to Martono on 4th, which means he'll not be under attack very, very soon, I would say. But I was kind of expecting a bit more for the Roman Grosjean esports driver here. His chance to take revenge, basically, for his season in GT Pro, which was more than, way less than ideal.
Yeah, really wasn't great for Risto Capit in GT Pro, dropping down the order into that bottom pack, and now joining us today. I kind of agree with you. I would have expected a little bit more from Risto Capit. He's under pressure fairly heftily by Presley Martineau, who's trying to find a way through. Presley Martineau, by the way, won the opening race of GT Challenge, had a podium a bit later in the season, but that first race of the season back in Imola in that Bentley, I do remember that race actually. It was a bit of a surprise, a name that not normally recognised in rFactor 2 series, and certainly made a name for himself, and looking to do so here as well, looking to try and grab a spot in GT Pro. But must remind again, yes, we are doing 3 races across the night, but they are not 3 races around Loch Drummond. They are 3 races on 3 different tracks where practice, it's hard to get practiced for all 3 circuits at the same level. So I think we're going to see some drivers moving forward depending on which venue we go to.
of course, I mean, even for Rista Capit, it could be that Loch Drummond is the one track where you thought it's a track that no one else races normally, so I might be okay and can stay within the top 5 without practice. But I put more effort, more time into Sebring, which is our second race, or what was the third one again?
Lime Rock.
Lime Rock, because I'm not sure why I always forget about that track. It's a nice one, actually. Actually racing in real life. Beautiful little technical track over that crest, which is a lot of fun. While Risto Capit decides to get rid of a lot of cones here. Maybe he was listening to us. Now he's a bit angry. Decided to get rid of all of the cones. But yeah, it could be that, right? It could be that he's just trying to stay with the flow now for this track, so that he can stay within the top 5 without all the effort. And then we see him shine on the next 2 tracks. Or we might see Ibrahim Khan. I mean, 4.5 seconds by now. And we're in the last 6.5 minutes, which means he wins it roughly 2.5 seconds per 10 minutes.
It's outstanding how fast Ibrahim Khan is going at the moment. Whether, again, to counter the point, maybe Ibrahim Khan has practiced more so at this track and less so on the other ones, maybe starting the evening in a good way, which, boosts your confidence. It really sends a message to the rest of the grid to be like, okay, if you want to get involved in the top 5, you want to win this thing, you've got to get on my level. It's not necessarily about winning the relegation. No one, let's be honest, not to be harsh, but no one really cares about winning this directly, but it's about being in the top 5, which is where winning, where consistency matters, and yeah, being able to deliver on all 3 of the circuits. I wouldn't necessarily say that if you've finished first, if you finished second, if you finished third, that you're in definite promotion spot, but if you're finishing 6th or 7th, you're certainly not out of it either.
It's true. I mean, I was thinking if Martona could actually try to relax here a bit. He's in 4th position, but then on the other hand, it is the first track. He doesn't know how the next 2 will go, right? So if he has a chance to take down Risto Capit now, he will probably go for it, just because it will give him the upper hand on the following 2 tracks. We see it on board here and on TV cam. Absolutely love that shot, by the way, which gives us full view on the fight. Now down the start-finish stretch. Picking up some slipstream here and there, and maybe look up the inside for turn 1, but there's absolutely no chance. And I think one of the hard issues that you have on Loch Drummond is that there are not that many heartbreaking zones. It's not like you can really dive down to turn 1 Nürburgring, right, where you got the hairpin or maybe the chicane at the end of the track. Where you can make something up under braking. Although I have to say, Alpressi Martino now doing a really good job following Risto Capit closely.
Yeah, Martino is absolutely solid. If there's anyone on the circuit that's going to be making a move, it would be him. It's just, where is it going to come? It's certainly not easy. Like you're saying, it's a hard track to pass. This corner up here is a tight left hand, but it's probably the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, the 3rd to last corner. But just a little bit too far back at that most crucial of points. We'll run all the way through this very, very tight left-hander. You never think it's quite that tight, but every time you go through, you think, oh, this is getting tighter and tighter. And then up towards these quite fast, quite awkward right-handers before we go on to the start-finish straight once again. But this is going to be a part of the course of the evening that qualifying is crucial, and it is a short qualifying session. I'm not saying that you need to be a hot lapper to do well here, but it does help. If you're able to deliver time and time again in that qualifying session, I think we're going to see that prevail across the night. Although, let's be honest, car choice could be crucial, because look at that on the left-hand side. It's McLaren's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah,
but we also have McLaren's in 8th and the first DNF is a McLaren. So it's not an automated entry into the top 5. Let's say that. At least it depends on the driver as well. Or Risto Capit still defending against Martino. He didn't have to really run defensive line so far, but I'm pretty sure he's well aware of that orange JMX Phantom McLaren in his rearview mirror, because Martino doing a great job following closely, not doing any mistake. And maybe we saw that on the high-speed part where they have to go over that additional rubber curb on the left, right, where we saw Wojciech Polesny going off. That is something that Martino wants to pressure Capit into doing.
Yeah, you're going to be hard-pressed, though, to try and find a mistake from this man. Risto Capit's well experienced in GT action. Of course, last season was a bit of a blip on the radar. Finished 6th, I believe it was, in the first season of GT Pro and 11th in the second season. Might be the other way around. I think it might be 11th in the first and 6th in the second. Has a total of 6 podiums in GT Pro. Last season, the R8G squad as a whole really struggled. Of course, the final 2 positions in the championship, let's go with it, they're owned by R8G drivers. That one being Hani Al-Sabti and, of course, 2-time champion Erhan Yovski. Risto Capit was their lead driver throughout the season and still struggled greatly with it, obviously courtesy of the draft and etc. They maybe could have played their cards a little bit better at the early point of the season, but either way, read into that what you will. Here now, Risto Capit means business, wants to get onto the series for another go at it. I'm not getting the vibe that this is the cutthroat Risto Capit that we necessarily needed. I was expecting him to come out here and dominate, if I'm perfectly honest. I was expecting him to be the Ibrahim Khan of the race.
Andrew, it's probably what most people out there thought, and I have to say I kind of missed the times when we had Risto Capit and Yuri Castor, for example, going through a field. I mean, Yuri Castor probably the greatest driver to put on a show when it comes to fighting with your own teammates for wins. That was season 2, where we had a lot of Callaway Corvettes back then. It was amazing to watch these two going side by side through 6, 7, 8 corners on some of these tracks. Really impressive what they did, but yeah, it's time for Risto Capit now to show that that it wasn't really his season down to the car, but currently it's also not super impressive what he does here, even with a 3rd position, just due to the simple fact of Ibrahim Khan and Cito Vaya running away from him, even though Cito is still kinda in view, but he never had a chance to attack them, and he started 2nd.
Yeah, not, like I say, not great at the moment, but we'll see how this one unfolds for Risto Capit. As running very wide there was Lorenzo Risi. Petr Berliak trying to close in. Berliak, who did a little bit of a check-up on stats, has been in GT Pro for all of the previous seasons, 1, 2 and 3, obviously really struggled in the BMW that was sort of thrown at him courtesy of the Williams partnership with BMW, BMW Team GB as well, his teammates Nikodem Wisniewski and Kuba Brzezinski as well. They did okay. Little bit more of a struggle for Petr Berliak, who only has 2 top 5 finishes in GT Pro, and those were in the first 4 races of GT Pro back in season 1, so dropped off quite a bit of form and really struggled. Just a single top 10 in the previous season, only a couple in the season before, so didn't have a great run, only escaped relegation from a few positions. Final lap of the race, and could be very important for him to make a move on Lorenzo Risi, but equally so for a Risi to defend and get some extra points.
It's also the last lap here now for Presley Martono to make a way around Risto Capit. Well, it looks so aggressive how he throws in the McLaren in that corner in the chicane. I absolutely love it. But is there a chance for Martono to even launch an attack here? He seems to have the same distance that he had before. Close enough with 0.3 of a second here to get into the slipstream and then maybe break into the inside of a corner. Although on these tighter ones, he's following very closely. Good under braking, closing the gap to the RHE McLaren. But as soon as we reach the straights, it seems like just running away.
Here comes Ibrahim Khan, though, to cross the line in dominant fashion. Maybe fictional, maybe virtual, but it's still home soil nonetheless. And Ibrahim Khan on top in the most fantastic of fashion. It is a Zancho 1-2 as Cito Vaya kept Risto Capit and Presley Martineau at bay. Christian Mikel for a top 5. Lorenzo Risi managing to hold off the charge of Petr Berliak. Martin Derlin will be disappointed with 8th position, but maybe that 650S is going to unfold a little bit better. Diogo Silva, our final finisher, just couldn't really do very much. And Polesny out of the race with that costly retirement. Fantastic stuff to see, and a great way to start. It's a big confidence booster, maybe more so for some than others. Ibrahim Khan will take a big confidence booster, but if you Cito Vaya, you finish 7 and a bit seconds behind your teammate. Might be a little bit concerning over a race distance. Presley Martineau as well, going on the attack of a driver of that stature, that's going to give you a boost.
Definitely, but it will be super interesting to see now how they do on the next tracks. Do we see a similar qualification result? Do we see the same top 5? Or do we maybe even get an entire switch of positions. I mean, Martin Dillon, definitely not a bad driver at all, and same for Peter Biel. Like as he said, he was always in the GT Pro Series. He belongs there. He can be quick, but can he show that today here in these 3 races? Because that's all that counts. If you do not deliver tonight, then you'll find yourself in GT Challenge next season, which at least means they can stay with the GT3 car. So maybe someone's just a big fan of them.
I mean, I do know that there are quite a few drivers that are not a huge fan of GTE cars in comparison to GT3s. I know there's even some on the grid actually had a little bit of a chat. Not saying that it's a massive dislike, but GT Challenge champion of Season 3, Matt Richards, was like, is it really the season that I won? I'm then having to be driving around in GTEs? Oh, God, this is going to be hard work. But, everyone's in. It's the same for everyone, as we love to say. They're going to be racing around over the same kind of season. It's going to be tough for them. I'm really looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a spicy bit of action. But we've obviously got this to play across the evening as well. So we're going to continue to see some GT3s racing around in GT Pro.
Yeah, absolutely love the GT3s, but GTE brings us new cars, and another announcement for tonight is that we will have the GT Pro Season 4 draft on July the 26th. So make sure to watch it. I think the first draft that we had in season, at the beginning of Season 3 was a great hit in terms of fun on the broadcast, I would say. All that guessing, who's picking what. We were 4 people back then on the stream, and we were joined by Aidan Millwall, we were joined by Lee Demon Smith for that show, and I think it was a great additional piece, right, which is not the typical race broadcast, and I hope everyone enjoyed as much as we did in front of camera. So if you want to see that again and want to figure out which GTE car is driven by your favorite driver next season, then check that out on the 26th of July in the GT Pro Season 4 draft. Talking about GTE, Lewis, that also means that we can finally listen to the Porsche RSR sound, which I absolutely adore, and I love seeing the Corvette C8. Sorry.
I mean, okay, right, we're going to talk about the C8 in just a second. I'll give you that. But that Porsche, the noise that it has is... It really is, at the moment, for me anyway, one of the absolute noises of motorsport. What a fantastic sound. So it's deafening, by the way. If you're racing, I would pick the Porsche just based on the fact that they can hear me no matter where I am on the circuit. It is a noisy car. Fantastic to have. C8R though, whilst we're here, why not? Let's talk about it. Thoughts on the body? You like it? You don't like it? I know Mr. Marcel Offerman's big boss man will like it. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a fan of the shape in general, but I have to say, as a normal street car, just like you buy it off the dealer, I prefer the older Corvettes. I love the race C8, but I can't really get used yet to the street version of it. It's just missing the bits and pieces that the GTE car has, basically, right? It's more dominant in terms of looks and all that, so I would like to there to be a special edition maybe of the C8. Not that I could afford one anyway, so it probably doesn't really matter, but I like the race car. Street car, not that much. Would probably prefer a C7 or a C6. I think the Corvette C6 is still an awesome I owned a C5 years ago in red with a Targa roof and obviously a 4-speed automatic gearbox like a proper American car. Wouldn't do that again. But yeah, they're cool cars, and as I said, the RSR in terms of sound, I think it's absolutely unique, although I do not want to ever listen to them again. Multiple cars going through the grandstand at Le Mans, because that nearly killed me. Absolutely crazy how loud they get. 1 car is fine, sounds amazing. 2 cars is close to you losing your mind. And 3 is basically making sure that you will never hear someone again the next 5 days. Let's get back to the actual points on the screen. 35 for the win of Ibrahim Khan in the very first race at Loch Drummond. Cito Vaya got 30. And you see 2-point difference to Risto Capit. But what we really have to look up for is Christian Michael Presley Martono, 27-26, and then there's only 1 point difference each time. Lorenzo Risi, 25, Peter Biala, 24, Martin Dillon, 23, and then 22 for Thiago Silva, and since Wojciech Polesi did not even make it, it's 0 points for him. So that's a huge disadvantage he has to overcome now in the 2 races, but I guess we have to make sure that we look at Michael Arisi and Bialek for now, depending on what will happen in the short qualification they will see here at Sebring School. Lewis, in case our viewers didn't watch the previous relegations, tell us a bit about Sebring School.
It's an interesting one. You come through turn 1, you think we're at Sebring normal. This is fine. This is okay. This is... Wait,
I was thinking that.
There's an instant right-hander. What's this about? You can see it there on your screen, actually, just behind us on this side, where you it's all fenced off there, but don't worry, it's not going to be fenced off when they race it. You come through this slip road between it, and it takes you, skips quite a large section of the racetrack, and then you come through, you go onto that enormous backstretch, and this is one where qualifying is going to be a little bit less important. That run down the Ullman Straight, down into the fantastic sunset, that is going to be prime overtaking opportunity. So qualifying a little bit less pressure on here than we have on either of the other circuits.
I think turn 1 is something to look out for, because there is this slight chicane or bends following right after, which makes it really hard to go through there.
Yeah.
2 wide, 3. We saw 4 wide in the previous relegation. People really decided they want to figure out how wide it is, and it isn't, because it gets very narrow. You come from a big part of the track to a small connection road, basically, which makes it super hard. Maybe we stay on board with Ibrahim Khan to see one of the laps, and he's probably the first one to now start a quick lap, finishing his out lap. So that is... okay, this is actually turn 1. We're quite wrong with turn 1, but let's say the first bend and then into turn 1. So that's quite a quick one. And then you have to see here on the left, there's a braking point, and you really need to be super hard on the brakes and get 90 degrees to the right and into this little back and forth, right, slightly left, then left again before it goes up to this backstretch. And I think that is also, you said it's before Sunset Bend where we might see most of the overtaking. But this part here, it sets you up for that overtake here. And it's so crucial to be quick there.
Absolutely. I mean, when we've done the relegation races before, we've seen a lot of moves going down into turn 2 as well. So some people are going to be fairly bold with their moves. Like you said, we saw 3 wide. It's a difficult corner by yourself, because it's so easy to go in a little bit too far. If you go in too fast, a big slide there from Ibrahim Khan at Sunset, that is not great. Potentially not conducive to good lap times. If you run too hot through turn 2, though, you clip the grass and it just pulls you in a straight line off the road, and there's nothing you can do. That was not a good qualifying lap, I don't think, from Ibrahim Khan, nor from Martin Derlin, 8th place.
Yeah, it's not looking super strong right now, but we have been on the Sancho car, and since you're a Sancho insider, Louis, are you trying to save costs now, reducing costs to buy a new driver, or is there a specific reason that the car is not in its usual Sancho livery?
No, that I was about to start questioning. And maybe it's because no one's had time to slap the Scottish flag on the rear wing. I don't know. Seems unacceptable to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jimmy Allison should ban you guys for that. That's not the official outfit, nor does it feature the right sticker set for GT Pro Series.
Does that mean that Boyak's being DQ'd as well as Presley Martin?
I'm just asking mistakes, isn't it? Wait, it's Risto Capet then winning, because he has a proper livery. Does he have all the right stickers? Lorenzo Risi has a proper one.
I think
Mitchell should have one.
Cedo Wire does.
Yeah. So in the end, there's only 5 people.
Exactly.
Have a proper livery.
Let's go. It's done. It is done.
Everyone is out there. Oh wait, Petar Bialek is definitely not getting the win then, because he's also running a stock livery. So,
but has qualified better here so far, though.
But look who's first right now. It's Montono. After 4th position at Loch Drummond, he's now in 1st. And Martin Derlin, once again, not in great shape, at least not with his first qualification lap. And Risto Capit, not that good either. So we might see a full switch here in terms of positioning.
Yeah, this could be very, very interesting how this one plays out. Walter Polesny, by the way, not rejoining us. So your chances of getting through have actually increased somewhat, as it's now 9 drivers fighting over 5 positions rather than the full 10. We are down 1 already, getting this beautiful 3-screen split screen. We're seeing them all in their laps, and it is important to note that they're all in their own little session. So obviously that's why we're not seeing Risto Capit and Lorenzo Risi basically inside each other. other. They are all driving around on their own version of the track. They're all driving around in their own bit of comfort, and that is required in this kind of stuff when you're dealing with such a short session. Across the line, Risto Capit goes up into third place. Lorenzo Arisi's improvement doesn't move him up too far. Petter Buriak, though, after going wide at turn 2, moves up into second place. Presley Martineau is the driver properly in command, though. 3/10 clear as Buriak and Mikkel set the same time.
Absolutely love this. I mean, that opens up the run for the top 5 in this relegation once again. Martono, we talked about that fourth before. Petter Buriak, he was outside of the top 5 in the first race, and now starting first row here at Sebring School. I think that will add some fire to this entire mini championship, like you called it, because it just opens it up for a third race. And so far, the previous 2 relegations that we had were always down to the wire on the very last track.
Oh yeah, there's no way you can run away too far around here. You can put yourself in a good spot, but you never guarantee anything because it's only 3 races, so it is tight stuff. But the win is crucial. That you were talking through it when you went through the points. 35 points for a race victory, 30 for second. That's a difference of 5 points. But then after that, it's just 2, and then 1 point for every position. Let's take a look at the grid then. Presley Martineau and Petter Buriak on the front row of the grid, with Christian Mikkel and Risto Capit. A bit of a turn of form from the previous race. Ibrahim Khan, after winning at Loch Drummond on home soil, now 5th place, still on the same row though. Sido Via, the driver that finished 2nd. Diogo Silva moves up from the back of the grid to 7th, and Lorenzo Arisi's final lap improvement wasn't too great, just 8th. Martin Derlin rounding out the grid. No Vojta Polesny for us. This could be very, very important for Presley Martineau, looking very much like a GT Pro driver.
It definitely does, at least in the first 2 races, or let's say first 2 qualifications. The race not done yet. We'll be on board with Diogo Silva here during formation lap. He has a ton of cars in front of him, which means he sees some good entertainment probably, especially going into the first right-hander here at Sebring. But he wants to be up ahead. He would love to be in the row where Petter Buriak and Martono are. Not that easy. Risto Capit, 4th position. He was 3rd in the first race, so he's keeping it. If he keeps it clean and just scores another top 5, then he's in a great position. But everyone else, especially looking at Sido Via right now, who's only 6th after a 2nd position at Loch Drummond, he will need to push, and he will probably try to do that in the very first corners here of Sebring School. And that, Lewis, will probably put us on the spot here, and you need to be very, very quick with your commentary on the first lap, because I think there will be tons and tons of moves happening.
It's just that nature of Sebring where it's going to be tight, it's going to be frantic. You're going to want to make moves early and maybe try and break away, because the slipstream is going to be crucial on the run down into this corner at sunset. Although it's not sunset at the moment, it's nice and bright blue sunshine here down in Florida. Martineau on pole position ahead of Petter Buriak, Christian Mikkel and Risto Capit as we prepare to get underway for the 2nd race of a relegation. It's a 720 on pole position from an Audi R8, and another one as well as we run towards turn 1 on the first lap. The classic 2 wide. Christian Mikkel going on the attack and trying to move up a position. Is there a way through? Not for him yet. Risto Capit going far around the outside. It's all about Petter Buriak though. He's got the inside for turn 2. There's contact as Presley Martineau is trying to squeeze him in a little bit too far. Brushed off wide, and it is all about Petter Buriak at the moment to the front of the field.
Oh, that was awful start for Martono. He'd lost a ton of positions.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
he's still within the top 5. That looked like a dive bomb setup there. But luckily, he didn't went too deep. But as you said, Petter Buriak with trying to make sure that his car is on the inside and that he stays there, not willing to move away just an inch, sending down Martono. I don't think that was penalty worthy, probably, as there were 2 drivers just fighting it out. And Risto Capit now all of a sudden in 2nd position. And we see Lorenzo Arisi looking up the inside of that Audi, but there was not enough space for him to squeeze the Bentley through. And Thiago Silva clipping the tires coming out of Sunset Bend. And again here, losing a lot of time. Very unfortunate, but look at this fight of Sido Via against Martono.
That's a fantastic move from Sido Via, getting by the prey that is Presley Martineau, defending now to the inside. This is a circuit that Sido did quite well at in the first season of relegation. I don't think he did quite well around here in the second. I think there's actually a retirement in this race, if I remember correctly, in the second season of relegation. But either way, a circuit with a little bit of experience. That was a bold move down into turn one, had to make it stick. Now up into fifth position. Ibrahim Khan had a decent start up into third place, 3/10 separating our race leaders, as Peter Berliak has a lot of pressure from the well-experienced Risto Capit. Just a couple of laps into the race. Here's Martin Durland. That is going to be a lot of damage on Diogo Silva, because that was a hefty hit.
It definitely was, and luckily he's still in the race. And Risto Capit will be so happy about what happened in lap one, because he got all the way up to second position. He looks quite settled down right now, but he got Ibrahim Khan in third, and Ibrahim started fifth, I think. Yeah, Via started sixth, and Ibrahim Khan in fifth. So they all won a lot of positions when Martono was actually moved out of the way and dropped down to the spot he's in now. I think he was in fifth. Yeah, Sido Via took him down last lap. Lorenzo Resi, one of the drivers who could not get any upper hand due to what happened. Where is that Bentley, though, by the way? I couldn't spot it in the background, but must be there somewhere. That's for sure. And we see that Risto Capit is really close now to Peter Biolak. Look at that. They're all getting the slipstream down to Sunset Bend. Not close enough yet, though, to launch an attack. That looked way better from the other side. They're way closer on the camera. Not enough yet for him to get into this and get into the battle, but this might be one.
Oh yeah, Martineau trying to go around the inside, outside, trying to find a way through on the Dutch driver of Sido Via. Lorenzo Arisi's waiting for a potential move to open up. Martineau, though, he's angry right now. Definitely not going to be happy with how this race has unfolded. Did a fantastic job in qualifying and looked very, very fast around this circuit. It was a good move from Sido Via, but you know that he's going to fancy his way through in that JMX Phantom 720S. But every time he's going to go for a move, I think that was Diogo Silva having a bit of a crash through the second corner, retires from the race, the second one out, so it'll be 0 points from Diogo Silva. And this fight, almost, I don't want to say it's getting easier and easier, but it it is in a sense that we started with 10 drivers going for 5 positions. We are now down to potentially just 8. Let's take a look with Presley Martineau. So this was when they were making contact. There was a little bit of a brush there. For me, it looks like he turned in a little bit too aggressively, escorted wide from Peter Berliak, and then this is just an absolute cluster. Managed to get back on the road in 5th place without spinning it.
I mean, I have to say, on board there, that was the touch by Diogo Silva into the wall for the very first time, and then later off he did another off that sent him away from this race. But what I wanted to say is, in terms of Martono, it looked like a way bigger impact there on his camera than from the TV angle that we had at the start of the race. And seeing that impact, I really wonder if Peter Biolak used him as a bit of a braking object there. And might have been a bit too quick into the corner, but that's something obviously for Jimmy Allison to look into and to check all the inputs of the drivers while we're on board with Lorenzo Racing now. The Bentley that you see in the back there of the McLarens of Martono and Sido Via. Sido once again with a great entry onto this backstretch. Look at how he runs away from Martono. Really nice exit, a lot of momentum he took on. So there's definitely not an attack of Martono that quickly.
Yeah, the 720 is a surprisingly punchy car. It's quite low. It's it's a bit of an all-rounder. Some other cars, this is why, to be honest, it's why it won the championship. It doesn't really have a bogey track. It is a good, solid car. It works well everywhere. It may not be the greatest car at any circuit across the calendar, but it just balances well. It acclimatizes to the different conditions of varying circuits, whether it's got straights, whether it's got corners, high speed, medium, low, whatever. It's a car that just kind of works in all of those scenarios. And like I say, it balances nicely. It's predictable in that sense. It's still hard to drive, and these are the very best at it, but it's probably one of those that's a bit more consistent. Let's take a look with Diogo Silva. Remember that there is a hefty amount of rear left damage. Already been off there at turn 2. He's got some dirty tyres. Way too quick. Turn 1 rather. Way too quick through turn 2. Goes for a spin, loops it, and out of the race.
Yeah, I think he cut the curb there a bit too aggressively, especially with the damage that he already had. And it sent the rear rotating a bit more than he was hoping for. Unfortunately, he retired with us down to 8 cars now. And you said it might be a bit easier, but let's be honest, Silva and Plesny did not really have an impact yet on the top 5, which means the fight is still the same for everyone placed 7th, 6th, 5th, somewhere around there, 4th, depending on what happens now. So let's quickly run through. Peter Biolak, where was he after race 1? 7th, right?
Yes, indeed. 7th place, 24 points.
Okay, so the most consistent drivers currently are Rista Cap and Ibrahim Khan, 2nd, 3rd, and they had been 1st and 3rd on the previous race. So Cap had similar points to Khan. Cito Vaya stays within the top 5 because he does well there. Mikkel is 6th in race 1.
Fifth,
so now...
you think?
5th? Are you sure?
I think it was 5th. Yeah, Lorenzo Arisi was in 6th. Christian Mikkel was
Arisi was 6th. Yeah, Martolo was 4th. So that might be a swap here in terms of championship points. As Martolo dropped down to 6th. And Mikkel has a lot better points here in the second race if they would finish as they do right now. And Lorenzo Arisi still outside of the top 5. That's his problem. Like, he really needs those points within the top 5 now, while we see how Ibrahim Khan had to look up the inside of Risto Capit here. So they're just waiting for just the right moment, maybe for Risto Capit doing a mistake. So he can finally launch and attack, but so far, Capit is safe.
Right, so let's think about this. So Berliak needs to win this race. Did not have a great run in race 1, like you said, 7th place. And with it being 35 points for the race lead, that is 5 points more than 2nd place. It's 35, 30, then 28, and then it's down 1 point for each position. So Berliak desperately needs to win this race to get onto the board from a more consistency point of view. Risto Capit, like you said, did well in the previous one, had 3rd position, 2nd in this. Realistically doesn't need to win, but a win would very much help. Ibrahim Khan doesn't really need to do too much right now. Presley Martineau, by the way, has dropped right off the back of Cedar Wire. I wonder if something's happened as Lorenzo Arisi for 6th position is fancying his way through. There has been something happening down into Sunset between that lot. Here comes Lorenzo Arisi to the inside of turn 1. Martineau was a driver who desperately needed to win that race. That was a little bit too far back to try anything, but worth a look, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes I think right now with 11 minutes to go, it's all about just showing your car in the rearview mirror. Try to apply some pressure on the driver in front of you, but they're all holding on to it right now. Not looking bad at all. Mr. Capit now done 0.7 of a second here between him and Petar Biolak. Obviously, he doesn't have to make a move. As I said, it's for Petar to basically win this race to get back into the fight for a top 5 finish at the end of those 3 races to get back into GT Pro Series and what we had them before. But probably the biggest loser in Sebring, if it stays like that, should be Martona. Like, starting pole position, dropping out of the top 5 even, and with that, losing a lot of points that he doesn't have to spare with finishing 4th at Loch Drummond.
Wonder if Alan Terz, which not that I'm sure he's probably not watching, but I wonder if he'll be happy if Petar Berliak's able to continue on and get through into GT Pro. It was Alan Terzic who who's departed GT Pro, that actually parted the ways, almost volunteering as tribute. Parted the ways to allow, to be honest, Petar Berliak to even be here this evening. And to be honest, from memory from last season, you might have to remind me on this, but there was one other driver who was a late-minute call-up courtesy of other drivers not being able to partake in this last season. That one being Timotej Andonovski, who jumped in last minute. I think he finished 11th or 12th in GT Challenge, took part through the relegation, got through the relegation, got into GT Pro, had a fantastic season in GT Pro, few podiums to his name, and 7th in the championship, showing the talent that we have on display in both GT Pro and GT Challenge.
Yeah, let's be honest with GT Challenge and how close the races they are. Probably if you take any of the drivers from the top 20 of that season at the end, you will get a driver that has a realistic chance of being competitive in the GT Pro Series grid. It's not like if we put in number 15, we would definitely be dead last. That's not the case, and that's what I absolutely love about this series setup. There's so many drivers on the same level, and the championship is open every single season for a new champion. Then obviously we had Nujovski winning the first 2, absolutely deserved that one. And now we had our first non-Nujovski winner, I would say like that. because his name is already 2 times on that trophy. But it's just great to see that there's so much talent within the world of rFactor 2 and so many competitive drivers. Talking about competitive drivers, Ibrahim Khan and the hashtag Khan Domination Tour 2021 is still underway. It seems like that last 8.5 minutes, Ibrahim Khan wants to take down Risto Kapit. He does so into turn 1, gets the inside, easy pass here. Risto Kapit opening the door. Good respect between those two drivers. Might on the switchback get to the outside? No, he doesn't. And with that, Ibrahim Khan, all of a sudden, is second position again, underlining that in this relegation, he's definitely the one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely wants to go into GT Pro once again with a bang. Was in it last season. Of course, said that he's one of those GT Pro drivers, was in a Ferrari. Did okay, not great. That's why he's here, of course. Okay, not great. There are drivers, by the way, who were right down there in the championship who only escaped relegation by a few positions. Nikodem Vishnevsky, who only escaped relegation by a couple of positions, a race winner in a feature race last season as well, for good measure. So it can. Oh, sorry, it was a sprint race, wasn't it? It was at Silverstone. Kevin Siggy was a race winner in a feature race. It's kind of one of those things where you're battling with people who are of mighty ability even low down in the championship, so it's no kind of a surprise to see even big names down in the relegation zone, which is kind of what we've had here. Ibrahim Khan, though, like I said, wants to return to GT Pro in the best possible way. I will say that was very, very smart driving, very heads up from Risto Kapit, showing the experience. Didn't fight Ibrahim Khan basically at all there, let it happen, and has accepted that, let's be honest, starting the evening with a couple of third place finishes, it's all you need. No one cares who wins. It's about how you finish. It's about getting in that top 5. It's about being consistent.
He definitely just needs to make sure that he brings home the points that he has right now in order to make it back into the GT Pro Series. But we also see Ibrahim Khan getting away from Risto quite easily now. I mean, look at that gap that he created already. And I think we have to give it to Ibrahim Khan here. He was very calm and collected behind Risto Kapit. He didn't push too much. He didn't try weird moves just because he knew that he was a bit quicker. Instead, he stayed behind the Roman Grosjean Esports driver, had a look at him, had a look at his line, and was waiting for just the right moment to get around him and make it up to second position. There's Risto. All right, I saw some car go weirdly in the background, but it might just been my eyes. I'm quite old here, probably. But Martono so far couldn't get his position back from Cedar Via, because he was 5th before. Cedar Via took him on track. It was not down to any position fights with contact, which is how Martono actually landed onto 5th position. But instead, Cedar took him down, I think, in the last... No, it was into turn 1 on lap 3 or 4. And since then, it seems like Martono can't really make it.
Which, considering Martineau's pole margin, which was 0.3 of a second, it was enormous, around a 1 minute lap. That is very, very impressive. That is a surprise. I would have suspected that Presley Martineau would have had maybe a little bit more to offer this race. At the moment, not looking so hot, and way down the order, 6th position, 4 seconds off of the race lead. Ibrahim Khan seems to have looked after his tyres. I was going to question whether Risto Kapit's tyres were the ones that were going off, and potentially they still were, but he's dropped 2 seconds off. This is a look once again at that move from Cedar Via. You've got the JMX Phantom car directly ahead, switches back to the inside and commits to it on the braking zone. That is a lovely move, isn't it?
It definitely is, and really showcased the talent of Cedar Via. Was absolutely ice cold how he took down Martono there, and with 5th position and him being second in the first race, he should really help out in terms of his points. So he might be one of the more relaxed drivers going into race 3. So is Ibrahim Khan. So is probably Risto Kapit. But Björk, Michael, Martono, and Urisi, maybe Cedar Via, are the ones that still have to decide their final position in the very last race.
So we can start. Okay, so here's the live points of where we currently are. Ibrahim Khan, after moving up into 2nd position, obviously we're going to go through this post-race. The top 5 at the moment: Khan, Berliak, Cedar Via, Risto Kapit, Christian Mikel. Presley Martineau needs to get on with this, and this is showing why. One more point, and he is then joint with Christian Mikel, a couple more points, and then he's definitely in that point. You need to grab a couple of extra ones from this round because it is tight stuff. Each position is a point and could move you closer and closer. I think from this, so we've lost Wojtek Bolesny. He's actually gone off to go swimming, so good for him. Has bailed from the evening after that crash. Diogo Silva's out of this race and is basically out of the runnings for the evening himself. Martin Derlin doesn't really look fast enough in the John Lacey Esports Academy 650S. So realistically, at the moment, it's kind of looking like it's going to be a 6 or 7 horse race, although Lorenzo Arisi doesn't look particularly fancy for the top 5 either.
Yeah, I think they, in the first 2 races, or the second we're currently on, they're not looking as strong as expected. I was expecting Lorenzo Arisi to be further up ahead, maybe fighting for a podium spot, and Martin Dolan being around 4th to 5th. But so far, he couldn't really show that, and maybe that's down to him picking the wrong McLaren. Hopefully, it was not just because he clicked the wrong one in the menu instead of the 720S getting the 650S. But so far, that choice did not pay off for him, that's for sure. And we've got 2.5 minutes here while Martona gets really close to Cedar Vire, under braking, but once again, not bringing enough momentum here onto the back stretch to then have a go at Sunset Bet.
Let's not forget, though, the 650S, of course, it could have been a mistake. I'm not 100% sure. It would be one of those ones where you kind of click on it and you join and you'd be like, oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like, it could be, right?
Could be. Who knows? But the 650S is still an okay car. It's a little bit more inconsistent than the 720, its younger brother. But the 650 was victorious in a race last season in the hands of Luca D'Amelio, was on the podium at Nürburgring as well. So it has had a few decent races to its belt. Martin Dolan clearly not resting the most out. But of course, that can be if you've accidentally joined in the 650S and you've done all of your work in the 720. The setup doesn't necessarily transfer directly. The weight transfer of the cars is slightly different. All of the cars are different in this, and so that's kind of how it plays into it. So maybe that's thrown him off and doesn't really like the balance of the 650S. Enjoying the balance of the 720 though is Ibrahim Khan. Peter Berliak, this is for 35 points, a difference of 5 points between the 2 positions, and another race win it could be for Ibrahim Khan. Got to make it stick somewhere. Surely he's not going to take any major risk here. Realistically, he just doesn't have to.
No, he definitely doesn't have to. He's in a great spot to get out of this relegation as a winner. By the way, at Marshal Jimmy Allison confirmed that he picked the car on purpose and submitted delivery, although you gave him a great excuse now, and we know that at sim races we should always have good excuses ready, so that might be one to consider, and just say Jimmy was wrong with what he said. But yeah, let's see how much risk Ibrahim Khan is willing to take in the very last minute of this race. He's certainly quicker than Peter Bielak, that's for sure. I mean, he overtook Capet along the way. He closed the gap to Bielak, something that Capet was not able to do so far. So he is quicker, and he's probably the quickest car on the track as of right now. But getting around there, especially safely on this track, is a whole other question, because in Sunset Bend, even if you get up the inside, there's still the risk of losing the rear over that bumpy exit of the corner, then maybe even clipping the wall. He goes from the outside because it's Peter Bielak once again covering up the inside. There could be a switchback, nearly losing the rear of the car there, but comes around, still in slipstream. Positioning is not that bad to maybe have a go into turn 1, but nope, he wasn't quick enough there. Probably had to lift to not run into Peter Bielak's Audi R8 GT3 rear there, but that means they will have another go.
And it is the final lap of the race. We've seen some pretty sensational catches from Ibrahim Khan last season. Saw a couple of good ones. Distinctly remember one back at Indianapolis that we did catch in the classic Ruben Carrera Alva slow-mo that we've had a few times in both GT Pro and GT Challenge. But that was a pretty sharp one. Instantly over 180 degrees of lock and then straight back to it as we ride once again back on board with Ibrahim Khan. This will be important for Peter Berliak, as we have said. This is 35 points. This will reignite his charge to stay in GT Pro. Looks like that gap may well be big enough. Had to start from second position, had to battle it out with Presley Martineau on the first lap, who's going to be very disappointed. We'll see what Race Direction says about that move. But coming through Sunset for the final time in the race after 20 minutes here at Sebring, it is Peter Berliak on top from Ibrahim Khan. A decent gap back to Risto Capet, but it is very, very good effort, and that could potentially talking a bit too early here, could potentially seal it a little bit for a promotion position for Ibrahim Khan with one race to go.
Yeah, he definitely on an insane pace tonight, Ibrahim Khan, and I would be very surprised if he's not running within the top 5 on the third track by what we saw so far. But there's obviously, as with racing in general, always the risk to get caught up in a crash. To do a mistake, it's 1/2 a second of not being concentrated enough, and then you lose the rear, or might go over the front tires, hit the barriers like Wojciech Polesny did in the very first race. But so far, it was absolutely flawless. So Peter Bielak winning the race. Front of Ibrahim Khan and Risto Capit. Christian Mikkel on 4th. Cito Vaya only on 5th after a strong result on the very first race. Presley Martono after losing the lead to Peter Bielak and having a bit of a contact that sent him wide only in 6th. Lorenzo Risi in 7th. Martin Durland not himself tonight, kind of, in the John Laser Esports McLaren 650S on 8th. And Diogo Silva, he DNF'd from the race after 2 mistakes. First, he touched the barriers coming out of Sunset Bend, and then he went too far over the curb in turn 2, and the car around hit the barriers. And with that, 0 points for him.
Yeah, tough stuff. 0 points for him, 0 points for Wojciech Polesny from the first race of the season. Here are your updated points after that race already on it. And like we said, 65 points to Ibrahim Khan's name. When you think of it, the points differential between finishing first and finishing, let's say, for example, in the last position, which I believe might be 8th or 9th, depending on if Diogo Silva does do the next race, should mean that realistically for Ibrahim Khan, he just needs to finish, which is easier said than done. I believe 7th or 8th place will do it for Ibrahim Khan. But either way, for everyone else, it is a tight battle. Peter Bielak with that win up to 2nd position in the standings, 59 points, 3 clear of Cito Vaya on the same points as Risto Capit. Christian Mikel just on the bubble with Presley Martineau, who will be a bit disappointed with how lap 1 played out. Could be fancying those top 5 positions. It does mean, though, René, that you've got to come back with anger at line mark.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that Martono's actually only on 6th position and 1 point away from Christian Mikkel, who didn't really had a highlight race so far, right? Drummond wasn't amazing for him, nor was Sebring School. So let's see how the last race plays out. Another information for the lovers of the GT Pro Series powered by Traction.gg for Season 4, as first round come around in August the 9th. So it's time for you already to make sure that you have that evening off. Monday evening it is, as the previous 3 seasons. Make sure that you're available. Make sure that you got the right drinks, right chips, or whatever you want to snack while listening to the broadcast and watching the best GT racing action. You see, I didn't set GT3 racing action because it is GTE in Season 4, but it will start early in August, so there's still a bit of time for you to maybe even look into the GT Challenge series, where I will do another announcement today as well, so stay on board if you want to know how to get involved with this series, how to get into the official feeder series, and then maybe one day ending up in the draft in the GT Pro series, and get Lewis McGlade to figure out weird things about your life and statistics and stories that might keep some drivers actually away from the series, now that I said that.
Are you telling me that they may not like the idea that I try and find every little bit of facet about their sim racing career and lives and bring it up on the broadcast?
I think there's so many statistics of them they try to forget. It's like, I've never been like that. And GT Challenge announcement, Season 4, obviously keeping the GT3 class, so we're now separating the GT3 and the GTE grid, so to say. So the pros, they're running the GTE, and the challengers, the feeder series, running the GT3 class. And another important detail about Season 4 of the GT Challenge series is that it moves away from Monday evenings in between the GT Pro and instead goes to Friday evenings, making sure that you can hit the club right after and bragging about your important win in Split 4 of the GT Challenge. That gets you the girls. Oh, boys, depending.
I'd say, I mean, I don't know how much of a pickup line is. It's like, do you not know that I am the race winner of round 3 in the...
You know these memes? Yeah, like they don't know that I'm a GT Challenge race winner. It's like, that's basically what will happen Friday evening.
Yeah, I won. I didn't win. I got a podium rather in a race at the Nürburgring when we did a LAN event, and it's a Nürburgring trophy, and I was like, oh well, this is cool. And obviously the first thing that I did was I took it straight into Subway because I fancied myself a sandwich. But it's just like walking in there with this trophy, thinking, oh my god, I must look like such an idiot.
Solid. I mean, when I won my first trophies here in the real racing at Nürburgring, I tried to put it somehow on the dashboard when driving home so people see it when passing right the paddock, right? Did not work, fell down. Smashed it. It's still alive. No worries, it is still alive. So are we, and so is the fight for the relegation in the top 5 spots here to make it through to the GT Pro Series. A last 20-minute race is up ahead on Lime Rock Park in a 5-minute solo qualification, so it's in private mode. Every driver, as we talked about in Sebring School already, every driver is on their own on the track and has those 5 minutes to bring in the best lap time. Let's see if the fight is on between Martino, Lorenzo Risi, who's involved there, Mikkel, who's in there for sure, and even Risto Capit. I mean, let's assume Presley Martino has another great qualification as he did at Sebring School, and all of a sudden he would find himself a pole position or first row, whatever, and Risto Capit is nowhere near that. Then the real question is, if Chris and Mikkel also passes him, then all of a sudden Risto Capit could be out of the top 5. It's not about me wishing it right now, I'm just trying to create a storyline around this. As also Lorenzo Risi, if he puts everything on the last race, still has all the cards in his hand.
Ibrahim Khan is in a really good spot. He's, I would say, fairly safe. There is
potential bias.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I'll leave the team. It's fine. No, I'm not. Don't worry, no panic. But it's in a fairly comfortable spot. Peter Berliak, fairly comfortable. It's pretty solid. It's pretty decent. It's a good foundation. Below that, though, Risto Capit, like you say, Cedar Vire on exactly the same points in exactly the same boat, although potentially with a bit less pace in hand, might be under a fair amount of pressure. Christian Mikel as well. It's a tight battle. I don't know how it's going to work out, but either way, we move up the East Coast from Florida up to Connecticut and to Lime Rock Park, a circuit which, let's be honest, I think most of us have done a fair few laps around in varying cars of ridiculous nature. Now it is GT3s that will be taking to it. Presley Martino, our focus after pole position at Sebring, looking to try and get another one this evening, which he desperately needs.
Another thing that I just realized when looking at the scoreboard is that I think Cedar Vire and Risto Capit, for me, are in a better spot than Petar Biolak is. Because Petar only had that one good race that propelled him up the leaderboard, while we saw Cedar Vire and Risto Capit consistently, across 2 races, not that much, being within the top 5. Petar Biolak wasn't in the very first race.
That is a very good point, because Petar Berliak did struggle at Loch Drummond to open the night. So maybe a little bit extra pressure. You like you say, that it's the consistency over this evening which matters. Presley Martino looking pretty consistent over this lap. Purple first, purple second. Not that it matters too much, as everyone's still setting the times themselves across the line. It was first, it's now down to second. Risto Capit, the man on top here, but instantly deposed by Ibrahim Khan. Boy, it looks like he's done a lot of practice for this evening's work, going out with a bang. Here comes Petar Berliak to end that theory, up to third, but 3/10 off.
Yeah, and they still all get at least one lap done, and see if they can get a better time in. Lorenzo Risi without a time for now, so he's listed at 8th. Thiago Silva decided to not return Risto Capit after purple sector. The chicane was not his friend there, so retiring for now on qualification. He probably gets another shot though if he gets back on track right now. Petar Biolak got a purple sector in sector 1, a purple in sector 2. So this could be a shot, and he really needs that because Mikkel is now in 3rd. Also a very strong qualification lap from him. So let's see if the Williams Esports driver that is Petar Biolak can propel himself onto 1st, and he doesn't. Instead, he only gets position 3. Cedar Vire up to 4 now, and sending Mikkel down to 5th.
Yeah, ran wide over the top of the hill. Curious, let's actually talk about this thing of Risto Capit. So bailed from his lap. I'm curious, is it a really good first sector from Christian Mikel up the hill, going to cross that second sector split. Didn't look too pacey, didn't take too much risk through there. Looking pretty good at the moment to move up from 5th spot. Of course, we're expecting tight qualifiers around here. Such a short circuit, just 47.5 seconds. What's Christian Mikel going to do? But through that chicane, on that rise up the hill, my concern would be, as there is no improvement from Christian Mikel, through the race, pushing your track limits a little bit too far, potentially risking a drive-through. That could end your potential chance of promotion in one fell swoop.
It's so harsh to say Martino not even being close right now. He's in 6th and he really needs the points here. He had a great first race, stood within the top 5. He had an amazing qualifier at Sebring. He would have probably ended up in top 3, I would say, without that contact with Peter Biolak in the second turn on lap 1. And now all of a sudden he's actually at risk to not making it into the GT Pro Series, because Ibrahim Khan, Capit, they're all doing well. Cedar Via, Gray, Peter Biolak once again in 3rd. And even the Nito Velux driver, Mikel, is in 5th right now. So for him, it's all or nothing now in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's going to be tears for someone. You've got to think about it this way, that I'm going to be a little bit harsh here because, why not? You've got to try sometimes, right? We realistically have a proper 6-horse race. No disrespect to Martin Dern or Lorenzo Arisi, but they're waiting to pick up the pieces of someone else's misfortune. They don't seem to have the pace to challenge the other 6 drivers, which does mean we have 6 drivers battling out for 5 positions, which means that you're fairly comfortable for a spot. It does mean, though, that someone is going to be very disappointed. I don't know if it's going to be Presley Martineau to the line. That is important. Qualifies now up into 3rd position and puts the pressure on the final moments into the hands of Christian Mikel, just a point separating them in that final spot.
It will be very interesting now on Lime Rock. I think we will see drivers being more aggressive because none of them will actually calculate it during the race. They might have an engineer trying to help them out, but they're more likely to take risks in the 3rd race now because there's not much more about, just chill out, try to make the points and bring them home, as they might not know that they missed the top 5 for 1 point.
Ibrahim Khan on the front row of the grid, on pole position as he did in the first race tonight. Risto Capit alongside him, the same front row as that race. Presley Martineau right up there as well. We've got Cito Via, Christian Mikel, Lorenzo Arisi and Martin Derlin your grid. I am really looking at Presley Martineau, though, right now. He's got Peter Berliak alongside him on that second row of the grid, but he is in the prime opportunity. He's currently 6th in the standings. That could have been one of the most important laps of the race, but he's on the same front row, or same row as the one that he had in the previous race. It didn't work out so well then, did it?
Not really. But let's see how the race start works out, because obviously, this, as you said, this is a very short track. We're talking about 46, 47 seconds per lap. So it's not like the field will spread massively in a lap. And especially with Sector 1, those flowing corners that we run into there, a prime spot for going side by side. So let's see how they do. This is the formation lap, and they need it done already, and we're ready, Lewis, to head into the very last race of Season 3, the last race of this relegation.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Lime Rock is a circuit which bites. It's got a high average speed and a high run and basically a high-risk maneuver down into Turn 1. We're going to see that unfold, though, as Ibrahim Khan is away, but it's Risto Capit to the inside. The pole sitter was on the outside on that run through Turn 1 and is going to be on the outside and drop down a position. It's Risto Capit on the charge. The JMX Phantom driver of Presley Martineau, who's into 3rd position. Peter Berliak hanging on to 4th. We're riding on board with Christian Mikel, going side by side with Cito Via. That is going to be important for him. He needs to get to Martineau. He needs to try and pass, needs to build up some more points as we run towards the optional uphill, which is actually what it's called on my track guide, onto the backstretch up towards West Bend. Perfect start, though, from Risto Capit. Had the inside and took advantage of it.
And really showing his experience here and taking that lead on Lime Rock Park, making sure that there's absolutely no one questioning him going into the GT Pro Series if it stays like this. Ibrahim Khan, 2nd position, but Martineau really quick right now. Look at him charging up to Ibrahim Khan into Turn 1, although I have to say, I think as soon as Khan is in isn't his rhythm for this track, he probably runs away. He had been so quick and consistent the previous 2 races. I would be very surprised if that isn't the same here for Lime Rock Park. But as you said, the fight now is on for Mikkel, Bielak, and Martono, 3rd, 4th, and 5th right now, with Cedar Vire all of a sudden being the furthest back and might even drop out of top 5 if he's not aware of every single point that's giving out right now.
There's definitely, so for some parties, there will be a fair amount of sort of engineering of looking at things. There's a lot of damage on the rear end of Christian Mikel. Now he's going to go defensive as we run towards the first turn. This one being Big Ben. It's got to be around the outside for Cedar Vire. I don't think he's going to fancy that and maybe try and lull the German into a mistake. It's a 2 apex corner, so you're going in for that second one. You're going to try and straighten the run. No way through. Christian Mikel, though, is backing Cedar Vire up into a lot of pressure from Lorenzo Risi behind.
You just imagine Lorenzo Risi all of a sudden getting involved here, and that is the start of Risto Capit. So on the left, there's Ibrahim Khan. He obviously had the inside already. Ibrahim Khan slightly better into the turn, but oh wow, that was really close between those two here. And luckily, no one spun out or whatsoever, but it looked like Risto Capit went into turn 1 quite motivated there, I would say.
You know, Risto, I brought up the stat with a few other drivers as well, the likes of Jone Simicic. Risto Capit's never won a race in GT Pro. Does this count? I don't think so. I wouldn't count it. But either way, a win is a win. Hasn't won on a field of this sort of competitiveness in GT Pro. Has been close on a couple of occasions and has done well, obviously having 6 podiums to his name across the 30... How many races did it be? 12? 36 races that we've had in GT Pro that he's taken part in. So, you know, not great, not terrible. But certainly looking to grab a win here and secure a pathway back into GT Pro. Here's a driver who needs to do something under a lot of pressure from Cedar Vire, who I still think is safe. Christian Mikel, with all of the work to do, needs to get past Presley Martineau, who's, let's be honest, quite a way down the road.
Yeah, this second fighting group is now the group to watch. If Capit and Ibrahim Khan run away, that's totally fine. These two, as long as they finish the race, they are through to the GT Pro Series Season 4 in the GTE cars then, just in case you joined us as of right now, because I see Erniowski just joining it, but because he might not have heard yet of the GTE cars. Welcome to the stream. But this whole fight, I'm just wondering, because with Cedar Vire, obviously from Martono, Biolak, and Mikkel, it would have been better if one of them would be in 6 and not Cedar Vire, who had the most points of this fighting group. But I'm really curious if we'll get an overview around halftime, maybe 10 minutes into the race, of the current standings, because is that enough already to let Cedar Vire drop out of drop out of GT Pro while he had an impressive start on Luck Drummond, right? He was following his teammate Ibrahim Khan. He came in, I think, 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, and Risto Capit in 3rd on the very first race. So he had a strong start to the relegation. But now all of a sudden, he has to fear that he might drop out again.
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, it would be, I never trust a commentator's maths, but let's go with it. It would be Khan, Capit, Martineau, Boyack, and Vire going through. It's more about the position that Christian Mikel's in. Because there was, coming into this race, there was 3 points between Christian Mikel and Cedar Vire, which that's the gap that we're kind of more focused on, because that's the real difference that we can make here. At the moment, it would be 6th position for Christian Mikel. If he can get by Peter Belek here, there's an extra point. And if Cedar Vire drops back a position, there's an extra point. And it's kind of those kind of things he needs Cedar Vire to basically finish in 8th spot and finish a little bit further down the road to try and gain this. But it's going to be tough. And I'm pretty sure that Cedo will know that and will just be basically driving to a number. We'll be driving without any risk on the table. We'll be just kind of cruising.
Yeah, so it's not enough for Mikel to just pass Peter Bielak and sending him down to 5th? Probably not to the results as well, right? And to the individual position, Peter Bielak went a bit wide there on the very last corner, sending it into the grass. But with that calculation, it also means that Mikel can't hope for Petter to do a big mistake and throw away the car, because that will bring Cedar Vire another position to the front, which once again means that none of that will work. But what was the points going into the race of Peter Biela? So what if he would really do a mistake and not make it?
If he retired, he's out, because obviously 0 points for retirement.
But if he comes 8th,
had 59 points, so he was 6 points clear of Christian Mikel. So with it being 1 point for one position, it would be enough to switch them, especially considering he's got a win to go back on from countback as well. So it needs to be a retirement, which, I mean, if you force them into a retirement, then you're getting DQ'd. But at this point, these drivers are all so well experienced that we very rarely see those kind of mistakes from them, even around tracks as tricky as this.
True that. But Mikel will probably still try to overtake Peter Biela and just do his best in order to make it into the top 5 and then see if the rest plays out for him. Martono slightly running away from this group. I mean, look at that gap, which is 4 seconds now between Martono and Biela. So Martono not slow at all, although it's not getting closer to Ibrahim Khan either. And Khan still not passing Risto Capit. Risto Capit, at least scoring a win, that would be good for him because we expected him to win at least one race in the relegation and might be here at Lime Rock Park because it's the last chance as well.
Now, this is kind of how much does Ibrahim Khan care about this? Does he really care? Does he really want to fight it really hard and try and grab the win? You're
questioning race drivers here, right? Oh, by the way, we got the table, so it's 1 point between Mikel and Martono, which would mean if Martono does a mistake and drops behind Peter Biela, all of a sudden Mikel will be back in.
Yes, unfortunately, I think if Mikel gets past Peter Biela, obviously they would be on the same points. It would be 80 apiece. But because I think it would go to countback, which the current position of Presley Martineau being on the podium would be enough to settle that. Although I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is. I'm pretty sure it would be countback, but you never really know. So, yeah, effectively, is praying for a mistake from the JMX Phantom driver. Again, I'm not sure. That's, to be fair, for us, Presley Martineau is the unknown quantity. Has obviously gone through GT Challenges, won a race in GT Challenge, the opening one of the season. But in this sense, battling with GT Pro drivers, etc., a bit more of the unknown for us.
Probably. And you talk about if Ibrahim Khan would attack Mr. Capit. I mean, I can tell you relegation... it doesn't matter if second relegation or first relegation. You knew that both BPM cars were in the relegation. And every single time, it was 1 point where there was risk that Zbigniew Szara doesn't make it. And the Payopath was in front of him. So, as I said, I obviously didn't have any contact to the drivers because I was involved in it and all that. So, not getting anywhere close to their relegation whatsoever. But they decided to not help out Szara because Payo really wanted to win the relegation. Which meant we have been lucky that both cars made it into Pro Series just because race drivers obviously want to win. So saying, oh, Ibrahim Khan just might relax here and let Risto Capit have it, quite sure about that because some drivers would definitely go for it. So let's see how calm Ibrahim Khan can be. That is Lorenzo Risi in his Bentley. Yep, right-hand drive. The only car in this group that is right-hand drive. And dropping down to 8th now and a ton of seconds between him and the next car.
Yeah, I wonder if it was contact between him and Derlin, because Derlin lost a bit of time as well in that, which, again, harsh. The two drivers that aren't really close enough to play for relegation, or for promotion, rather, are the two that are causing an incident between each other. You know, fair enough, each to their own, battle it out and have a bit of fun. Why not? 10 minutes to go to really round out, to officially finish Season 3 in the GT Series here on rFactor 2, powered by Traction.gg. Let's take a look at what happened to Lorenzo Risi as we're riding aboard. I think it might well actually just be a mistake to his own accord, as Bentley looking a little bit struggling. And here we go, going onto the grass. Yep, there it goes. Too quick into the grass, and that's why Derlin lost a bit of time. That's a lift out of it. Bentley does block quite a large amount of track, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is quite a hefty car to have right in front of you, but luckily Martin Derlin made a pass, which is good. We don't want to see them crashing, but you're right. Unfortunately, Derlin and Risi not really part of the fight for a top 5 positioning, which is probably very disappointing for these two, and would have loved to see them in another GT Pro Series season. On the other hand, that would be 2 drivers that I would also like to see in the GT Challenge Revenge program, basically, trying to get back into Pro Series, which could be very entertaining. Risto Capit still half a second, roughly, of a gap between him and Ibrahim Khan. Ibrahim Khan tonight not in the right livery, and he's not a teammate of Matono on the back, even though it might look like that. It's just because they spend a lot of money on having Lewis McGlade in the team, and therefore they have to cut down on cost the Sancho HQ and decide to not have liveries now.
Do you think Ed pays me?
Of course he does.
Does he? That's news to me, mate. I'll start sending him invoices. It'll be fine.
So wait, so he's taking all that money, but telling everyone else he has to pay Lewis McGlade. There we go.
There we go. Facts firing out thick and fast. I did hear. I think it was apparently it was Ibra himself who didn't submit a livery. So the joke's on him, and the egg is on his own face. Obviously, not wanting to represent the brand. Maybe he'll get fired. Who knows?
Maybe that is the first signal of him switching teams. I mean, Roman Grosjean Esports probably looks for a few new GT Pro drivers after losing Hani Al-Sabti and Nuyovsky to not be in Season 4. So let's see. Maybe it's that. Maybe you will lose some of your drivers, Lewis.
I think John Lacey Esports Academy were also looking for one, but we'll have to wait and see. Risto Capit, though, leading the way by half a second. Ibrahim Khan sat there at the moment. The pressure from behind has reduced slightly as Presley Martineau now a second and a half off our focus on Christian Mikel, who's tantalisingly close to being in GT Pro. I get the vibe with 7 minutes and 20 seconds to go that it might not happen, which is tragically close. But for Cetres Nita Velix, they lost one driver already. Turko Hakkinen out of GT Pro, was in the bottom 5. Looks like they may not get a driver up there to replace him. Obviously, Christian Mikel, one of the drivers that's come through from GT Challenge, which means that their only driver in it will be Timotej Andonovski, which, fair enough, did well last season, but you want as many drivers up there. It was a good job they picked him up, otherwise there wouldn't be any Cetres Nita Velix representation in GT Pro in Season 4 later this year.
Yeah, it's like I was quite happy about Nita Velix making it into the Pro Series because we obviously want more teams, more organizations to be involved with this series and pushing it further. Let's remind ourselves of Season 2, where the entirety of the top 5 was basically Roman Grosjean Esports cars, which was great for them, and they also put on great action, so I'm not arguing here about that at all or blaming them, but obviously it's great to see different liveries, different teams being involved, all pushing as hard as possible for a certain win.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see as many teams and brands battling out. Whilst we had fun watching the R8G contingent battle it out, of course, that one being Hani Yovsky, had Hani Al-Sabti as well, with Yuri Kazdorp and Risto Capit. It was fantastic to see them, and then obviously we saw the likes of Kevin Siggy getting involved, and a couple of other drivers. Nikodem Wisniewski's had a few good runs as well throughout GT Pro. We've seen that, whereas I feel at the moment we're at this point where we're seeing a lot of different teams attacking. We're seeing a lot of brands heading to the front, and what we're seeing is smaller margins separating our race winners, our pole sitters, our championship contenders. I mean, look at how close it was last season. Just a couple of points separating the championship after 12 races. 940 for Jan van der Heide, 938 for Dennis Jordan. It was a brilliant season from start to finish. And I get the feeling we're going to get more of that.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, so far the GT Pro Series, as well as the GT Challenge, always put on a good show for viewers to watch, I would say. We had a tight championship each and every time. Yeah, Yoski was dominating the first 2, but we still had great racing action on the track, although it wasn't for who becomes champion, because I think that had been clear pretty early in those seasons. But yeah, with more teams pushing into it and seeing obviously driver movements, we kind of get of our own silly season nowadays, I would say, with drivers switching, teams switching organizations for the upcoming season. But certainly for Nita Velix, I think it would have been good to get a second car in this, have a bit of help, a wingman basically for the season for Andonovski. But for that, we would need a little bit of luck now, I would say, with the last 4 minutes of the relegation. With that, the last 4 minutes of the entire GT Pro Series powered by Traction.gg Season 3. And so far, he wouldn't be in, although he scores another top 5 result here.
You wonder if someone's been on the blower to Presley Martineau and been like, do you want to back off that top two? Because at the moment, you're in position to grab yourself a GT Pro driver. And let's remind ourselves that Presley Martineau was looking very good in race 1 in that battle with Risto Capit. Looked very good through qualifying in the earlier stages of the Sebring race. Of course, it didn't work out down into turn 2 as there was contact between himself and Peter Berliak. See if that one plays into anything from race control, but alas, not for our discussion at the moment, and has looked very well here as well. For me, Presley Martineau absolutely looking like a proper GT Pro driver, as there goes Christian Mikel. There's a position dropped.
Yep, seems like he was listening to the broadcast and kind of got unmotivated after what we just said, because that was a big running in the 90s initial D drift again in turn 1. And due to that, he dropped down a position, gave Cedar Via 5th, which lets the Sunshine driver at the end in the standings look a bit better than what he did before. We probably get. Oh, I was betting on a proper Ruben Correa Alves slow motion of that drift here a bit early on, and then there's a little dip in the corner as well that helps the front to stick in, but also keeps the rear rotating. And with that, there we finally get it over the curb as well. Look at how he put the splitter onto that curb stone on the inside.
Not as fancy as others. We had a good one. I'm going to say Ruben on the bus now. We had a good one back at Loch Drummond, of course, with Risto Capit smashing those bollards out of the way. Didn't have one from Sebring, so at least we got one here. We're getting our quota. We're fulfilling it for the classic Ruben Correa Alves slow-mos. Of course, more of that, which I'm sure we're going to get through Season 4 of both GT Pro and GT Challenge. Do love a good bit of the camera work, a good bit of the slow-mo action. So when the season comes back, once we're back into the commentary booth, we'll be able to watch plenty more of that. And so will you by subscribing, by following, by searching for us on all sorts of social media so you can keep up. Here we go. This is going to be a bit more fancy angles. There we go. That's better. That is more like it. Thank you very much.
Including a bit of fire coming out of the exhaust of the Audi R8 GT3 there. Very nice. I think at one point we'll probably have a Ruben Correa Alves stream going out at the same time, showing the entire race from that perspective in permanent slow motion. Probably a big edition. That's obviously a paid stream then.
Yeah, right. Well, it's, I think so. Slow-mo in rFactor 2, if I remember correctly, I think it's 8 times slower than the normal speed. I did I tried to work it out once for reasons unknown to me. I'm pretty sure it is 8 times. So you think of it this way: if you're doing a 20-minute race, times that by 8, you're dealing with a long race. So I mean, it looked good. It just take a while.
It just means that rFactor 3 at one point will get 12 or 16 times slow motion, making it even better. Someone in the chat asking, is next season GTE? Yes, that is the case, at least for the GT Pro Series, powered by Correction.gg, while the GT Challenge Series remains with the GT3 lineup. Now, they keep in their cars, while the Pro guys have to get used to the GTE endurance cars that we bring to the Sprint Series.
Yeah, absolutely. This is sort of like the separation. It's moving it up. You think of this where you're in motorsport in real life, you move up a category. It tends to be that movement forward is into a faster category. It's into something with more gusto, and that's kind of what we're getting here. We're seeing them move from GT3s into GTEs. They're going faster. We're seeing the big boys out in the big cars. Final lap of the race, final lap of the season. Ibrahim Khan has dropped right off the back of Risto Capit. 3.3 seconds is the gap. So within a second is Presley Martineau, who I think has been cruising himself, and they are just trying to reach the end of the race without taking any risk. There is Ibrahim Khan. You've got a driver going a lap down involved in all of that. I was trying to work out if that was... Oh, it's because that was Cedar Via. It's all right. Just getting really thrown off by the action. Final corner then. And finally, Risto Capit. Maybe it doesn't count, slightly unofficially, but is on top in GT Pro, at least in some form. Ibrahim Khan, though, steals the day by grabbing another podium. Presley Martineau grabbing that final spot on the podium and potentially confirming his way up into GT Pro. Of course, all of this provisional, a costly mistake from Christian Mikel might well have just put the nail in the coffin. But that was a frantic evening of racing, and I'm sure we're going to see plenty more just on the horizon.
Yeah, we said it here on the stream, right? 9th of August. I hope that's not the wrong date. That's that now. The 9th of
That
August
is the right date. Well done.
It is the right date. Well done there. Thank you very much. Which is the first race, or marks the first race of GT Pro Series Season 4. Let's have a quick look at the relegation with Rista Kappa taking his first win tonight. Ibrahim Khan kind of the dominating factor here in this race. Presley Martono, great pace from him in the third race where it counts for him. So he will move up to the GT Pro Series. No, he won't, actually. I said that, but it's not true. Because Peter Biolak and Cedar Via will make it. No, Martono will make it as well. Why am I so confused? Mikkel won't make it. That was the thing. He's not in the top 5. Martin Durlan definitely not in. Lorenzo Risi not in. So we have to say goodbye to these two for sure. We'll have to say goodbye to Christian Mikkel as well. And hopefully seeing those three in the Challenger Series again, where they can drive GT3. So at least they don't have to practice on the new cars.
Yeah, there is that. A bit more comfort, although I think Christian's got a decent amount of experience in the GTs, as I'm pretty sure, as well as Martin Dolan and Lorenzo Risi, although more so in prototypes, if I remember correctly from a Risi's point of view. Either way, fantastic stuff. We'll get the standings up for you as well, just to confirm things. I do believe with that kind of consistency and those positions delivered on the basis that we saw, it will be Ibrahim Khan looking very much like a GT Pro driver. Once again, was in GT Pro last season. Didn't look necessarily on a race-by-race basis like a GT Pro driver. However, in this, most certainly did, topping it. And look at that. Obviously, you know, I've got to be proud of this. You know it. It is a Zansho 1-2 in this, so which means that realistically, Season 3 belongs to Zansho, winning for Rocket Simsport in GT Pro, winning for Zansho Simsport in GT Challenge, Jan von der Heide and Matt Richards respectively, and a 1-2 in the relegation race as well. Counter to the drama they had in relegation back in Season 2, where they had cars in this expecting more and have dropped out of it. Risto Kappa Petter Berliak will be returning to GT Pro, and Presley Martineau, a bit of the unknown, firing it in and looking very, very impressive indeed. Up to 5th spot. Could have been a bit easier through for him had there not been the issues back at Sebring, but I'm sure he'll take that nonetheless.
Well, it means that with Presley Martineau, we get a new team on the grid of GT Pro Series, which is something I really like. I'm not quite sure. We still have a Waveframe Esports car, I think, in the GT Pro Series. Do we? Trying to remember now. I think there should be one.
I believe it was Lorenzo Risi was the only one, because it was in that Callaway. I'm not 100% sure.
Actually. While Ruben wants us to talk about Season 4 to use GTE class for GT Pro, but we did that previously. Still great to have it on the screen though, so everyone remembers GT Pro Series Season 4 the draft at July the 26th. While I'll just cover during Lewis McGlade looking up all his stats and pieces he has. GT Pro Season 4 Round 1, and on August the 9th. So mark 26th, mark the 9th. Make sure you know when your favorite drivers are on, and then GT Challenge Season 4 to keep using the GT3 class, and it moves to Friday evenings. That's probably the biggest difference for that season. The qualifiers, they open on the 22nd of July, so that's next month, and run to the 1st of August with the very first round on August the 13th. So they're now in the same week as the GT Pro Series races, I would say, because 9th is the Monday, and then 13th, that is the Friday, which means you get entire week of amazing GT racing on rFactor 2. So make sure to be prepared for that. Get yourself involved. Sign up for July the 22nd to make it into the GT Challenge Series.
Can confirm there is no Waveframe now in GT Pro. We have lost them. A bit of a sad moment, of course. Lorenzo Risi didn't match the Callaway that was obviously so strong in Season 2, and alas, the Bentley this evening that may well have fared better still didn't really work out. Bit of a shame, but we do have our drivers then, and like I said, it's Ibrahim Khan, Cedo Via, Risto Capit, Petter Berliak, as well with Presley Martineau, and that is a strong field of 5 drivers to join our 30 car field once we go racing. But of course, we have that draft to deal with first to see who's taking what for the season ahead.
Trying to run through my hat which other teams we have. And Varga Sim Racing, they lost the driver in this relegation as Wojciech Polesny DNF'd on the very first race, never returned. But they have drivers coming up from GT Challenge the direct way to the GT Pro Series, so they will be in Season 4 with Vargas Sim Racing. So we lost Waveframe Esports. We still have Williams Esports. We still have BMW Team GB. We still have Zanjo, Rocket Sim Sport as well. Obviously, after getting the championship in Season 3. We keep La Pala Motorsport. We still have Roman Control Esports, obviously with Risto Capit scoring big points here in the relegation. Which other team did I forget about? Nitro Velox with Ananovsky will be in for Season 4. And there are definitely more teams than that.
There's quite a lot, realistically. You got Red Bull as well. Of course, they were one of the ones that joined through the season. You got John Lacey Esports Academy. There's plenty of brands, plenty of colours out there on the racetrack. And I'm probably going to get my hand slapped off for this, but I think there might well be a second Rocket Sim Sports car on the grid. So, read into that what you will.
Tell us.
I said might.
Now you started with it. Now you need to give us a hint. Which driver?
I know. I said might. You got to give us hints on what's happening with Impact La Pal, mate.
I got 2 drivers.
Are they going to take the same car this time, or are they going to go different like they did last season?
We like to have excuses ready in case we're not scoring our big. So maybe we'll do Porsche once again next season. I mean, it's now Porsche RSR, which is an amazing car.
Right.
So
yes, I don't like the Porsche GT3, but I do like the RSR. So
there you go. Now with GTE being announced, it's open. It could be whatever car, right? I mean, I can tell you it's definitely not a Bentley. It's definitely not an Audi either.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not fancying the C8.
I don't know. I just think it would be great for us to keep representing Porsche, and then obviously having the same excuse once again.
The old classics.
Yeah, that helps us out. But we're done. Someone asking RSR confirmed. I was obviously talking about the RSR that already is in the game. I can't tell you anything else. So sorry to say you have to bother other people with that big question. But Lewis, we're done with the entirety of Season 3. Obviously, Aiden Millward not with us today, as he had been for the Pro season. Do you want to end the show with whatever last readings that are not about Sancho nor Rocket Sim Sport?
Well, I will just say I'm very much looking forward to coming back when we head to the July the 26th. Is the real kind of the semi-start, isn't it, of Season 4 when we do that draft for GT Pro. And it was good last season, might be good this season, might be, who knows how things are going to spice up with a GTE class, because this is something that's very much an unknown for us to race like this. So it should be an exciting season. I'd assume, although we don't fully know, if the format is going to stay the same. I believe it is. So I'm sure that's going to create some interesting racing. We've seen GTEs going toe-to-toe in this style. But first race this season on August the 9th. It's going to be a brilliant one. It's going to be fast and frantic. We're going to see some of the biggest names on rFactor 2 going toe-to-toe.
And since Lewis already said that's the 9th of August, there's not much me left to say. The right way around, maybe. But to say big thanks to our partners, Traction.gg, helping to bring this on your screens, and VCO and Fanatec, and everyone else involved, obviously everyone working in the background, the talent team, Aiden, Lewis, obviously, who's here today, and then there is Lee Demon Smith and Cameron Roger. Also, big thanks to him covering the rFactor 2 events. With that, Season 3 is ending. It's all over, but we'll return in August. Make sure to be ready for GT Challenge. Sign up July the 22nd to qualify for GT Challenge. Race on the best GT3 cars out there with rFactor 2. My name is Rene Butter, and I'll see you next time.